Women in the military. History tells us what humanity has overcome in the past. It is a story, one that is not pleasing or kind to certain groups, especially women. History often presents a bloody, chancy, and disconcerting picture of life regarding the roles and freedoms of women. While this picture is not always entirely accurate, one point stands out. Women in America have always served the interest of their country. During the early settlement of North America, women immigrated to colonial and frontier America by necessity, accepting a rigorous life of the unknown, fighting the elements and the enemy for survival. Many of these women used the lessons learned from immigrating and applied their experiences by going to war with their husbands, or in some cases, eventually wearing the uniforms themselves. These women accomplished incredible feats of service regardless of the dangerous and unknown future ahead of them. While it is true that many women stayed behind to manage and maintain the home front and sent their fathers, husbands, brothers, and sons off to fight in the war of the time, many women and families also traveled with their men and became camp followers. These camp followers encouraged the domesticity of living for the soldiers. They served as laundresses, seamstresses, nurses, cooks, and even in some cases were prostitutes. Women played a small but significant role during the American Revolution. Traditional roles included nurses, seamstresses, and cooks. However, these occupations were not all they did. We have the Molly Pritchard legend, which states that upon the wounding of her husband, Molly manned her husband's gun at the Battle of Monmouth, aiding the rebels' victory over the British. Pritchard's legend might not be as true as we think it is. Rather than being about a single woman, the Molly's story is a compilation of the actions of multiple women at the time. A notable name that you will recognize is Abigail Adams, who served as a spy. Another example of a woman who stepped across a line and into service was Deborah Sampson, who enlisted in the Army under her dead brother's name, Robert Shurtleff, and upon the discovery of her sex, she received her discharge from the Army. While these are just two examples of women who left their mark on the activities of the American Revolutionary War, countless other women appear in documented history. In addition, many others did not get the recognition in history that they deserve. We see the same through the Civil War and the Spanish-American War. Women continued to fulfill their traditional roles of maintaining the home front and as nurses, cooks, and seamstresses. Almost 3 decades after the American Revolution, Americans found themselves at war again with the War of 1812. The War of 1812 appears to be an American war not much talked about. However, while the roles of women did not change much from the previous conflict, we can see slightly more documented experiences of Native American Indian women taking part within this contention with England. However, during the Civil War, we saw an uptick of women who disguised themselves as men to enlist in the Army. Women made their greatest contributions to the Civil War in the field of medicine. One of the things that the Civil War challenged was the culture of the Victorian domesticity. These ideals define the roles of men and women, with the amount of women disguising themselves as men to serve in both the Union and Confederate armies. The experience of these women helped to redefine what womanhood looked like in America. Along with the traditional roles of women serving alongside the military, the women of the time set up aid relief societies. In the Union Army, these societies provided them with food, clothing, and other necessities. These women were pivotal in petitioning the federal government to create the United States Sanitary Commission. This commission was established to combat preventable diseases and make conditions better by following the work of Florence Nightingale. The women of the Confederate Army also chartered aid and relief societies. However, the difference between these societies is that the Confederate Army had fewer resources and therefore were more dependent upon the ladies' auxiliaries. We must not forget the contributions of slaves and freed women. History does not always recognize the names and pictures of these women, as we do with Harriet Tubman, who was a conductor on the Underground Railroad, a nurse, and a Union spy. During the Spanish American War, the Army could not recruit the roughly 6,000 men needed to serve as nurses, so they reluctantly accepted 1,500 women as nurses under a civilian contract. The Spanish American War had convinced some in the government that women could serve in the military. The Spanish American War yet again saw women serving as nurses and in relief efforts. However, with this war, we can start to see a shift in the way the women of the time engage in support of the military. We can see new groups starting to pop up, like the Women's National War Relief Association, the Spanish Red Cross, and the Cuban White Cross. Women started reporting on the way. A Canadian, Kathleen Blake Coleman, is credited as the first female war correspondent in the world. We also see that women started being more vocal in their opinions and started to participate in public discussions.